Hi, welcome back to Actually Sustainable podcast, where we talk about how high achieving women, especially those with neurodivergent brains, can build and maintain and protect a life that feels actually sustainable. I'm Rachel, physician assistant, educator, writer, hobbyist of all kinds, and burnout survivor. And we've done a million deep dives into all of these different topics that led me to here to help teach you guys what I know and hopefully start some good, helpful conversations that get you guys from where you are to a much more sustainable life like I currently have. Okay? Now, quick disclaimer, this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not a replacement for medical advice or therapy. If you feel you need more personalized care, please go seek a professionally trained person. I mean, I'm trained in a whole lot of ways and I have a bunch of certificates and all of that, but this is one-way communication. I'm talking at you. Yes, I can text you. Yes, I can do things, but this is not the same as therapy. This is not a replacement for that, guys, okay? Part of my journey was also going and seeking therapy. And that made a huge difference because I got to learn it. So we're still in the acknowledging the fact that what is our brain doing phase of this podcast. That's where I'm at. If you realize during this acknowledgement phase that there's a whole lot going on, especially if you're in that medical world and you're really burnt out and you're really, really struggling and there's a lot of that moral injury or there's some complex PTSD or secondary PTSD or, any of that kind of stuff, that requires one-on-one targeted therapy with a trained professional. That's not, I'll touch on some of that stuff, but it really requires and deserves more focused care. So please, if you feel like any of this resonates strongly with you or kind of brings up a lot of stuff, even stuff, just something that's kind of problematic, please seek your own healthcare professional for that, okay? All right, today what we're gonna do in episode 4, yay, we've done a whole month, yay, is talk about how productivity is not our personality. Now, in the past, we talked about how we're not lazy, right? We're just overwhelmed and deserve some breaks and rests. When you put those together, they sound like a different piece of anatomy. But when we talk about our personalities, right, we tend to identify ourselves with our job. There was a long time when I first left the emergency department that I felt very lost because my entire identity was wrapped up in that. I am a physician assistant, an emergency physician assistant. I will still introduce myself as that to people. When I'm in my family practice clinic, thankfully, I've stopped doing that. But there's still times when I'm out and about and people kind of ask me what I do. I'm an emergency PA. Some of that probably is a bit of an ego thing because it sounds cooler than a family practice one in certain ways, right? But some of that's just literally how I identified. I was listening to a podcast recently by an expert. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but where they talked about how we tend to imprint on our first real major job, and it really influences how we interact with the world going forward, especially workplaces. And so I think that can be true, right? I still identify as emergency. I also still identify as the competent person who's overworking and doing all of these things because that's who I have internalized. I've been that person for so long that I kind of did for a long time conflate the two. I am productive, therefore that is who I am. But that's not our personality. Our personality is very different than our productivity. We can be whatever we are. We can be silly, we can be happy, we can be fun, we can be grumpy, we can be, like whatever our personalities are, outgoing, introverted, whatever. We can be all of those things whether we're productive or not. They're separate. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of societal norms and a societal... Right. We get that conditioning that we are our productivity, and our productivity is us, and our only value is from our productivity. So we get acclimated to all of our achievements, all of our positive input, all of our self-worth is because of these external factors being given to us, all of these external triggers that tell us what is good about us. And that usually is tied to our productivity in some way. Now, there have been a number of studies. I think it's Daniel Pink is the more pop culture-y guy who's got a bunch of books out, and I've pretty much read all of them and I like them all. I think it was him. I'll put it in the show notes, whichever one it ends up being. It could be somebody else. But they talk about intrinsic versus extrinsic value, and it was a very good book about that. And again, I'll find it in the show notes, or I'll find it and put it there. But they did a number of studies that showed if all it is extrinsic motivation, you end up not getting as much value from it. You don't get the joy. You don't get the thing. And now we need more money to do it. And we need more validation. And we need more external motivations and extrinsic things from outside of ourselves to make us feel the same way. There's a time there where, like, when I was really burnt out, I was done. I knew at that point, I got to the point where I knew my value. I'm really good. But honestly, you could pay me $500 an hour and I'm not going in to do another shift. I don't care. Like, you get to that in burnout, you can be at that point where that extrinsic motivator is not there anymore. It doesn't matter. I don't need to be productive. Because I'm going to break, or I am broken and this isn't working and I'm not going to do that. So what we need to do, what I would like you to do, it's not need, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, is find some of those places where we feel that our intrinsic motivation, meaning we actually want to do it just because we want to do it, is there. And then do those things. We need to do those things more. And eventually, maybe, your job will be that thing again. Like, when I started off in the emergency department, I loved it. I went in every day. I loved it. I studied it. I researched it. I did my CMEs. I read it. I listened to podcasts. I did all the things because I loved it. I loved my job. I worked multiple days a week because it was fulfilling in many ways. It was meaningful, right? It had purpose, but it wasn't what I needed at the end. Another example I'll give is my oldest son, because I've had a couple of other little small businesses along the way too, a couple of different iterations of trying to find something else that intrinsically filled my well, right? Trying to do these things and gain some extra money so I wasn't quite as beholden to this machine that was burning me out, the machine of modern healthcare. And so I had this side business, and my oldest son came down and was helping me. And he, would hang out and we'd talk a little bit, but mostly we're just kind of next to each other with him, kind of doing some work with me. And it was nice, and I liked it. And, it felt like a little thing that he and I could do together. His brothers never came down, but he did, and it was lovely. And then I started actually kind of getting in the black for that business. And so I was like, hey, if you're going to be down here anyway, why don't I pay you for it, for your time? I can pay you so much money per hour. You can be down here with me and make some money. And he was like, no. And he never came back down. And occasionally if I, went to a show or did something where I was out of the house and I needed the extra help, he would come and help me, but he never let me pay him for it. And he never came down to help me the same way that he did before. And it was after I read that, it was before I had read the book. So after I read that book, I was like, oh, that's why. It's that intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation and thrill, right? So he wanted to do it because he just wanted to help me. He wasn't doing it as a job. It became an obligation when it became a job. Not me being nice and giving him money. If I really just wanted to give him money and be nice, I would have just silently put it in his savings account and he would have known. Which I did a little bit of. But I thought I was being good. Anyway, so with us in our jobs and our lives, we need to find those things that are intrinsic for us. We have intrinsic motivation with things that we like, that make us us, that are our personalities, that we like. Like me, wearing shirts like this. Like, can I go wear this to work all the time? No. Do I wear it to the university? Absolutely. I wear this in jeans. I do not dress nicely I'm teaching labs too, and we're dissecting organs. So I wear shirts like this because that's part of my personality, and it just brings me joy. I also wear, funky colors on my toenails because that brings me joy. Nobody's going to see them except for me, except maybe in the summer when I'm wearing sandals. But even then, I don't wear sandals a lot because I'm always at work. You can't nobody sees them at work, and, whatever. So, but I know they're there and they make me happy. So I can enjoy them. That's my thing. So what I would love for you guys to do is try to find 5 things that have nothing to do with productivity that bring you joy, that help give you who you are. Just some little things. They don't have to be work related, family related. There's no real qualifications on it, but just something that you find enjoyable and fulfilling in whatever even little way. Like I said, I paint my toenails bright fluorescent yellow. I like it. Makes my feet look jaundiced, but I like it. I don't know why, but I do, right? So that's generally what I do a lot of. And those little things, try to find 5 things that are you and your personality that have nothing to do with productivity, but that can give you a little brightness and joy in your life. All right, I'd love to get your list. Put it down there on the comments under my show notes today so that I can see what some of those lists are. Maybe some people can get some ideas if we're getting kind of stuck. I know, again, if I'm in that overwhelm cycle and I'm just like, there's nothing that I like, right? We can kind of get in that headspace sometimes. So sometimes seeing other people's lists can help jog our memory. Oh, I used to like to do that. Maybe I can try it again and see if I like it, right? And remember who our personalities are outside of us being productive, because we are human and we have self-worth regardless of our productivity. And we can be joyful and, all of that. So as usual, if this resonated with you, you found value in it, you think somebody else might as well, please share it with them. If not, and you just or I guess if you felt you got something out of it but don't necessarily want to share, you can still give me a 5-star review, or at least 4, whatever. Give me an honest review on wherever you're listening. Give me a follow or a subscribe, whichever. And yeah, I'll see you next week.